Hey guys, Bowserkins here for another video, and today we're going to be talking about Dragonflight Brewmaster Monk, the talent tree um, that Blizzard has currently released for them. Obviously, this is going to be pending a lot of changes. They've been making a lot of tweaks to the talent tree so far. I don't expect it to look like this by the time it's finished. But if it is finished this way, I think that it's pretty cool. I think Brewmaster Monk is one of the better ones. I wanted to start with this one. I'm going to be getting a little bit more critical of other tank talent trees as I do those videos. But for today, I am pretty excited to be talking about Brewmaster. Before I start that, though, I do want to address the fact that I have not released a video in 6 months. I did have some personal stuff going on that made me miss all of season three. Um, personal stuff that was really important to me, and it was definitely worth it that I lost out on season three. Um, but sadly, that personal stuff is no longer relevant to my current situation. So, back at it with WoW, at least for now, and looking to have some fun in season four. So far, doing relatively well, getting myself geared up, and I should be, releasing some gameplay videos at some point down the road. But yeah, so let's take a look at the Brewmaster talent tree. I'm gonna skip out on doing the generic monk one, and spoiler: the reason I'm doing this, although there are some cool things in here, a lot of the points, the overwhelming number of points in here, are spent just getting things back that you already have. That's a common issue with a lot of people right now, and that it's fine. I think I'm maybe just a little tired of hearing about it. The whole point of this talent system, though, is to kind of give you choices, so you can lose things you currently have and gain other things that you don't. Are they executing that well on the monk tree specifically? Not necessarily, but there are some cool things like instant cast, vivify. Um, there is two minute cooldown reduction on fatal touch with a 2 point investment here, reducing the cooldown of fortifying brew by 2 minutes, or making you super tanky while you're using it. There are some things in here that are pretty cool. Yeah. Um, but as a brewmaster monk, the meat and potatoes is really over here. So let's go ahead and start out. You've got your cake smash, you've got your stagger, purifying brew, shuffle. All of those things are pretty straightforward. You're going to want to take all those, and it unlocks your access to all this whole row here. And we'll just go one by one. So hit scheme is a tour gas power currently. It makes it to where when you're dealing damage with blackout kick, it increases the damage of your next cake smash by 10%, stacking up to 4 times. Some people may question the potency of this, but we'll go over why this could potentially be pretty solid further down the tree as we get to a different power. So, Gift of the Ox: when you take damage, you have a chance to summon a healing sphere, visibly only to you. Moving through it heals you. This exists already in the game. It can be a lifesaver at times. This is not a mandatory point like you would think it is, and that's just because there's quite a few opportunities for healing in this tree later on. And expel harm is down here on the right side. That's not a bad thing because this is where a lot of your stuff is, and you're certainly going to have the opportunity to select it. But if you don't, and you don't want to take Gift of the Ox either, it's not mandatory. It's just it's one of those things. You can also take just straight up healing elixir in the middle, and have access to a 15% max health heal if that's something that you want to do. You've got Russian Jadewind and Special Delivery on the right side. Just kind of pick whichever one you like the most. Right here, every 3 seconds of shuffle, you gain purifies, or excuse me, every 3 seconds of shuffle, you gain purifies 1% of your damage delayed by stagger. The wording of this is a bit confusing. But yeah, I mean, basically, it's like whenever you have the shuffle up, every 3 seconds of that, um, I think it's what it does. It's purifying 1% of your stagger. So it looks like a pretty bad 2 point investment. You're certainly probably, I mean, you're almost certainly going to be better off taking Gift of the Ox over something like that. But I would like to see wording that makes sense. see what we're actually getting out of that. Over on the right side, there is some pretty cool stuff over here. You've got Zen Meditation, which in itself is not really cool. But if you invest one more point below it, it makes it to where it has a 25% reduced cooldown, so reducing it below 4 minutes. And it no longer is canceled when you move or when you are hit by melee attacks. So it's going to be an 8-second channel, reducing damage taken by 60%. that could be very strong. When a cooldown falls off, the mob is half dead, and you can make yourself, really, really powerful all of a sudden by reducing the damage by 60%. So that's pretty cool. Right of that, facepalm ability. Tiger Palm has 10% chance to deal 300% of normal damage and reduce the remaining cooldown of your brews by 1 additional second. Um, so that in itself is not super powerful, although it's kind of nifty to have. However, you can take shadow boxing treads below it, and remember, a hit scheme is going to increase the damage of our cake smash. In an AOE situation, this this talent, which is also a Torghast power, increases the damage of blackout kick and makes it hit 2 additional targets. So, AOE situation, your blackout kick will be doing more damage, but more importantly, you're going to be buffing your cake smash by 30% every time you blackout kick. So that could be quite potent. Moving on to the left side of this little tree over here, you can take Expel Harm. Healing is increased by up to 200% based on your missing health, or Purifying Brew instantly heals you for 25% of the purified stagger damage. They're doing two very different things. What's interesting about this is like Expel Harm is straight up on the tree over here. I'm not entirely sure. It seemed like they're trying to avoid the situation where you could take a talent over here that is actually impossible to utilize because you have to get something over here or vice versa. But I'm not entirely sure that the Expel Harm thing based on your missing health is going to be all that potent anyway. Whereas the Purifying Brew instantly healing you for 25% of the purified stagger damage could end up being a significant amount of healing. So that is pretty darn cool. So on the left side over here, you've got Celestial Flames right below the 8-point requirement. I'm just going to go ahead and, I think I'm just going to leave that over there where it's at the moment. You can take Celestial Flames. This is a talent on the Brewmaster tree currently in Live WoW on the level 50 row. Most people take High Tolerance, but Celestial Flames is something you can do. There's also a Blackout combo on that row. This is your Celestial Brew. This is an Azurite power that used to be a thing. Staggering Strikes. When you blackout kick, you reduce your stagger by a flat amount. Generally, always ends up being a bad thing. So, but who knows? Like, it could end up being good if it's blackout kick damage. Then you could be, benefiting on a triple dip from shadow boxing treads. But since it says when you blackout kick, your stagger's just reduced, I have a feeling it's just going to reduce it once, regardless of whether you have shadow boxing treads or not. So that's unfortunate, but it could potentially be pretty strong for staggering off a decent amount of damage whenever you blackout kick. I don't know if it'll actually still be good at that point, even if it is working with a triple dip. But I think if it's not, it's definitely a dead talent. So they're probably going to have to tweak this in order for it to compete with the really, really potent talents that are selectable in this section. And then so you've got the Celestial Brew buff here. This is when Purifying Brew increases the absorption of your next Celestial Brew by up to 200% based on stagger purified. So that's really strong. You've got Purifying Brew here, getting 2 charges. A lot of people really appreciate the fact that there's 2 charges on Purifying Brew. It's just kind of a standard thing. This is one of those points where you kind of have to spend a point to get back what you like about so much the Brewmaster Monk. That's unfortunate, but you have options to move away from it if you're not playing around your Purify so much. And then you've got Breath of Fire here on the left side. You're obviously going to want to take that. This increases the effectiveness of Stagger by 15% while Fortifying Brew is active. You're obviously going to want to take that if you want your Fortifying Brew to be pretty potent, especially if you're running things like this Choose over here, reducing the cooldown by 2 minutes, making Fortify Brew more of a mainstay of your defensive rotation. Always a good thing. There's a couple of interesting things, though. Like, you've got Celestial Flames, you've got Breath of Fire. You can come over here and you can do Scalding Brew, which is just a conduit in the game. But then there's also this talent. When you use Cake Smash, it resets the cooldown of Breath of Fire. That is pretty darn cool, and you know, you look at it, you're like, okay, well, Breath of Fire isn't amazing. It's kind of just like the DR, not necessarily the damage. But you can take this ability here called Drag. There's obviously Charred Passions. Like Charred Passions is really strong. Everyone knows what it does. That's the other choice here. But I want to emphasize Dragonfire Brew. After using Breath of Fire, you breathe fire 2 additional times, each dealing 13% of attack power fire damage, and your Breath of Fire damage increased by up to 100% based on your level of stagger. Okay, that's the key part. The first part, breathing an additional 2 times for a small amount of damage. I don't think that's going to be a ton of damage. 13% of attack power, that's really low. Um, it's essentially like brambles on Guardian Druid. It's a very small amount of damage. But increasing the damage of Breath Fire by 100% based on, or up to 100% based on your level of stagger, could result in some fairly potent Breath of Fires hitting your target when you're in medium and heavy stagger situations. So it depends on what the numbers are. Like if it starts at 60%, goes up to 75 at medium, and then 100% at heavy stagger. As long as it scales well at low stagger, you could end up with a significant buff to your Breath of Fire damage. I still think that Charred Passions is going to be the way to go here. And if you think about it, it synergizes well with this too. When you Cave Smash, it resets the cooldown. Well, when you when you cast Breath of Fire, it makes your Spinning Crane Kick do a bunch of extra damage. So lots of synergy happening here on the left side. Down the middle here, one thing I didn't go over is this choice here. So you can get your Black Ox Brew, which a lot of people really like, or you can get your Bob and Weave. So there's a decent choice there to be making as well. Again, like even in the middle here, you've got Invoke Nuzhou. You know what I mean? And then right here, there's Training in Nuzhou, which gives you 15% mastery based on your level of stagger. Or you can take Light Brewing, which a lot of people have experience with already. Those are strong too. Like everything in this area except for graceful exit. So after you successfully dodge or an enemy misses you, you gain 5% increased movement for 3 seconds. As far as I understand, there's no internal cooldown here. There obviously has to be, or else you'd stack up insane movement speed pretty much immediately. If kiting is the meta in Dragonflight, which I really freaking hope it isn't, then you could end up with a really high amount of movement speed, allowing you to kite even more with this talent. So it's cool that it's there. I just don't want to miss anything. I want to make sure I'm getting everything here. Shocking Blow is just completely useless. It's crackling Jade Lightning. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can get extra damage for Blackout Kick, I guess, but it's pretty bad. But lots of options up here. So we've already spent 23 points. We're 23 points in. We've only spent 1 point below the 20-point mark, so we're like overspending. One thing I just want to emphasize, I'm just going to take off a couple of points here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to take out Invoke. Well, I actually have to take Invoke to unlock these two, so I'm going to take out Light Brewing for you. I like Light Brewing. Not today for this example, anyway. All right, so one interesting thing that you can do is you can actually take, so you've got High Tolerance here. Everyone knows what that is. Then you've got Bone Dust Brew, which you can go with on this side. Now, this functions more or less as like a Necrolord stem. So you can get your Bone Dust Brew, and then you can go here, and you can get either Bountiful Brew. Your abilities have a low chance to cast Bone Dust Brew at your target's location. Everyone knows what that does. Or Attenuation. Bone Dust Brew shadow damage or healing is increased by 20%, and when Bone Dust Brew deals shadow damage or healing, its cooldown is reduced by 0.5 seconds. So, yeah, I mean, you've got two obvious choices there. For the Necrolord thing, kind of functioning the same way it does now. If you go up the middle, however, just before I finish here, so I've got 25 points spent. Let's just, in theory, say we've spent the minimum amount before we get below here. You can take 2 points in this Anvil and Stave. Each time you dodge and enemy misses you, the remaining cooldown of your brews is reduced by a second. Then you can take Weapons of Order and one of your, like, you can take your Legendary, or you can take the Brawn Capper for Effusive Anima Accelerator. Whichever one you decide to take, you can have Necrolord and Kyrian powers at the same time. You can have Bone Dust Brew and Weapons of Order. That's pretty insane. The unfortunate part is the other capper, besides your choice between these two over here for Kyrian and these two over here for Necrolord, is your Storm Stout's Last Cake. And the thing that makes Weapons of Order so potent is the fact that your your Cake Smash is doing so much freaking damage. You know, um, so having something like this build over, with this could potentially be very powerful, but at the same time, you're giving up Storm Stout's Last Cake, which in my opinion is very, very satisfying um, power to have. I'm really glad they're putting it in the tree, so it's there. Just to go up the middle, so you guys know what's available to you. Walk with the Ox is a conduit currently in the game. Everyone should know what that does. Elusive Footwork. Blackout Kick deals an additional 5% damage. Blackout Kick critical hits grant additional 1 stack of Elusive Brawler. If you put 2 points, go ahead and clear these out so we can see this. If you put 2 points in there, it gets you 2 stacks of Elusive Brawler. You've got Exploding Keg in the middle. So for those taking, keeping score, Russian Jade Wind, Special Delivery, Exploding Keg. You can have 2 of the 3 from that row at any one time. Not all 3, but at least 2 or 3. So you make the choice. You could go Russian Jade Wind and then use Exploding Keg for the slow. I personally like Special Delivery, and that makes it to where Exploding Keg is not super necessary. But if you're looking for that additional AoE, and it is definitely a powerful spell to use, it's available to you. Below Elusive Footwork is Blackout Combo. So again, for those keeping score, you've got Blackout Combo, you've got Celestial Flames. Everything is a wonderful time. And to cap it all off, High Tolerance is here. That's a 2-point investment, unfortunately, to get that talent. But that's because it's potent, and it's also right on the way to Necrolord fun times. So if you're looking to take High Tolerance, that's probably because you're going for the Necrolord stuff over here. Not mandatory by any means, but High Tolerance has been pretty strong in the past, and yeah, for someone who doesn't like Necrolord, who played Kyrian all the time, I'd prefer if these were swapped over here. But Anvil and Stave is also really strong, so all right, whatever. On the left side of this middle part here, Purifying Stagger damage while Nuzao is active increases damage to Nuzau's next stomp by 25% of damage purified, split between all enemies. This is what Nuzao normally does, but they're making you spend a point to get it back, and that's just so that you're investing in your Nuzao. You can, again, because there's choice in the tree and there's a lot of good choices, you can choose to forego this. But if you are taking Weapons of Order and Call to Arms, giving you that free Nuzao, you're going to be giving up a lot of damage if you don't take Invoke here. So, it's definitely recommended that you take Invoke. Oh, one thing that I should note here, guys. So if you take High Tolerance with just 1 point, which is possible to do with this setup here. So you can get Charred Passions and Storm Stout's Last Cake with this build, plus Weapons of Order and Call to Arms. Like, this is a really strong, this what I'm showing you here, this specifically, in my opinion, I've deduced that this is a very strong setup, right? Now, there's some edits that I would do, like, for example, if you're not going to take Zen Meditation, or I should say, if you're not going to take Fundamental Observation here, because you don't feel like you're going to be utilizing the Zen Meditation all that much, which is totally fine, you can put that in Celestial Flames over here, and then you can do this same build through the middle with Call to Arms, and that works just fine. And that's just to sacrifice this cool defensive ability of being able to use Zen Meditation in the middle of packs, and you'll get Celestial Flames out of it. Again, totally up to you. I like, personally, if you're gonna invest in this over here, though, like, you just straight up don't need Celestial Flames. You don't need Celestial Flames, at least for the damage, or coating stuff in Breath of Fire. You're gonna be firing off constant Breath of Fire. Yeah, it does give you additional 5% DR for your Breath of Fire, and that might be certainly more valuable to you than Fundamental Observation. I would not disagree with that at all. But there are also other options. Like for example, you can take Tring Out Light Brewing, or you can take Bob and Weave Black Ox Brew here. Those are perfectly fine, and certainly better than Celestial Flames. Just any one of those things. You just want to get to the point where, with this build, you have Charred Passion, Storm Stout's Last Keg, and Call to Arms with your Weapons of Order. An interesting point in why this works is because you can take just 1 point of high tolerance, and your stagger is only 2% more effective, but you still get the same amount of haste from your high tolerance. So that's pretty cool. I like that function of it, guys. And I think that's going to do it for this video. I'm over the 20-minute mark, a little bit too long. But hopefully you enjoyed the conversation. Let me know what you think of the hype around Brewmaster tree so far. I think that it's really cool. There's a lot of really cool things happening in this tree. I didn't even go over Counter-Strike. Each time you dodge or an enemy misses you, your next Tiger Palm or a Spinning Crane deals 100% increased damage. There's so much throughput in this tree. I think that it's really exciting. If they work on the base monk tree a little bit more, I think it'll be even better. But yeah, let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I think there's a lot of fun to be had in this, a lot of power to be had, and I think Brewmaster's looking like it could potentially be really good in Dragonflight. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.